So the last 48 hours have been a wild ride of ups and downs for the Division franchise as a whole, as we finally received an update on the Division 2 after nearly a year of silence, a briefing on the upcoming changes to specializations, and an expected, yet not surprising delay to an upcoming Division Universe release. What's going on, everybody? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and based on that intro, we've got a ton to talk about concerning all things The Division related. But before we dive into today's video, if you like what you see, make sure to smash that sub button and ring the bell to receive all future upload notifications from my channel. Alright, let's get this one started. Okay, for those of you that are used to my channel and used to watching my Division coverage on my channel, you know how I like to handle these articles. Normally, I will actually show the exact article up on the screen. Some of it I will just read through verbatim. Other things I'm just going to interject with my own opinions. And just to recap this week, like I said, it's been a wild up and down week. Wednesday, we finally got a tweet after nearly a year off of Twitter for anything really substantial, stating that new content would be coming next February. I did a video and covered that, I believe, 2 days ago. But in that tweet was also this hint that we would be receiving the Intelligence Annex initiative. These are basically little splashes over on the Ubi page explaining some of the ideas, some of the concepts for the work that's going on for the Division 2. Here is the first one. This one was actually posted yesterday. For those of you who want to read this, I will include a link to this in the video description below. And it says, Intelligence Annex Specialization Revamp. You can see it posted yesterday, October 28th. This is a 5-minute read. It's actually much less than that. But it says, Agents, as previously communicated, we are back with a new episode of the Intelligence Annex Initiative. Sorry when I'm reading just things that aren't really relative. I'm just going to rip through them very quickly. So no real comments here. Today we are kickstarting things strong with a focus on how we are going to improve one of the key aspects of the game, specializations. I've got to agree with this. Ever since WONI, I haven't really invested much into specializations. Once you unlock all the perks, they're there. And for me, the specialization weapons are just backpack candy at this point. I don't really attempt to use them, which is a shame because when we first saw these weapons, showcased on State of the Game way back before the game was launching or getting ready to launch, they were definitely demonic in how just thoroughly they could destroy things. And since WONI, they have been just a shell of themselves. So I'd like to see specialization weaponry cranked up like 1,000,000%. I'm just saying that, but sliders definitely need to be adjusted on these. Well, all the details will be shared closer to launch. Of course, we expected that. We wanted to give you a first sneak peek about how the team is going to continue to give you more choice in building your perfect agent. I thought my agent was pretty perfect to begin with. But anyway, to introduce this content, we now leave the floor to Trick Dempsey, expert game designer. All right, so Specialization Revamp. In the last few years, we've dedicated a lot of time to researching the builds used by players in both PvE and PvP content. Okay. And we've concluded that specializations are today not reaching their full potential yet. Like I said, once you unlock all of the talents within the actual specialization itself, I mean, they're either active or passive talents. They're always there. There's nothing you have to do to really proc them. And then, of course, you have the specialization weapon, which is thoroughly useless, especially in PvP because it's not even activated. Our objective with specializations is to empower players to create agents who match their playstyle preferences. Okay. With our next update, specializations will greatly improve both build diversity and player choice. Okay, I will reserve judgment on that, and I'll talk about that in a moment. To do this, we will be splitting up specialization progression into a linear level and a specialization tree. Okay. So I guess the linear level that they're talking about, think about almost like seasons or GEs or something. You, I guess, accumulate points and you unlock perks and talents and things like that. That to me says more like what we have right now. Like if you actually activate a specialization and you look at the perks and everything, it looks like that. Now what they don't describe in here is, are we just going to keep what we have right now, or will it be a completely new leveling system? I.e., we're going to start off with, let's say, the sharpshooter specialization. Right now I have everything unlocked. Would it just reset and now we have to unlock everything anew? I'd like to know about that. And then they also have something that's a little more concerning to me. I've read some people over on Twitter talking about this, and I stay in communication privately with prominent members of the Division community, or at least I think they're prominent. They're certainly staying involved, whereas a lot of people have left the community. I know that a lot of people out there are really hyped about a specialization tree. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I'll talk about that in a moment too. So, continuing on, the linear level progression. By the way, I haven't read this yet, so this is my first time. In the current design, much of the existing specialization tree is mandatory. That's correct. I mean, once you unlock the talents and perks, and I call them talents and perks, but basically all the nodes in the specialization area, they're there. I mean, they're not mandatory. I guess you could not activate them, but you don't have any choices in there. Agents can spend their points into improving signature weapon damage and ammo acquisition, also requiring to manually add and remove individual elements whenever you decide to try out new weapons. Okay, so what they're talking about is like, remember, specializations have gone through several different iterations. In the past, I'm just saying, and once again, let's use the sharpshooter specialization. I think it specialized in, it gave you bonus damage with rifles and marksman rifles, but not everything else. The latest iteration, obviously you can go in there, you can change it around. I mean, you can use it with a shotgun or an SMG or something like that, and it'll give you bonus damage in those nodes, like 10%, 15%. So I know that it's been through several iterations. I guess that's what they're talking about. Remove individual elements whenever you decide to try out new weapons. So I guess, yeah, you can do that right now. So let's move on to this next section. To better fit with our ambition to create a more bespoke experience for all specializations, these elements will be moving into a strictly linear level system. This is where you'll unlock your skill variants, specialization sidearm, and upgrades, and signature weapon power. All the quote-unquote, this is where the power increases come from, perks will be moved here once they've been reviewed and tuned. Once you've unlocked these benefits, they will remain permanently on your character as long as they have that specialization active. So it sounds like to me it's kind of like what we have right now. Yes? No? Maybe leave me a comment down below. Skill variants. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're in there. Specialization sidearms, like what is it for the sharpshooters? The D50? The Deagle? Okay. So this looks all kind of the same as what we have right now. Okay. This linear level progression will also reward you with the specialization points to spend in the new specialization tree. Okay, so I spoke about this earlier. Are we keeping the points we've already unlocked and we've already ground through with the existing iteration of this system, or are we going to have to regrind points and unlock new nodes? I don't know. But this kind of sounds like what we have right now. I mean, as you unlock things, it's either, it's a passive or active, talent or perk or whatever you want to call it. It's already there. And, you just are basically unlocking bonuses for your character. All right, so down here, the specialization tree. This is where I start to have some questions. And like I said, I haven't read this article, but I've spoken privately to some people about this, so I already kind of have an idea about this. But thanks to the addition of the linear progression system, which we're talking about up above, we will be entirely reviewing the specialization tree to provide a stronger focus on customization and choice to the players. Okay. Importantly, there will not be enough specialization points to purchase every perk on the tree. Instead, you will need to choose what's best, what perks best fit your playstyle. Okay. Here we go. A little more detail. The specialization tree focuses on 3 elements: signature weapons, armor kits, and grenades. Okay. For grenades and armor kits, we want to provide alternate uses for these consumables, which may be triggered instantly in addition to their standard behavior. Okay. The trees permit agents to pick whether their armor kits and grenades have these alternate quick uses and invest additional specialization points to improve them. Okay, so it sounds like they're going to give you, I'm just speculating here. It sounds like they're going to break this up, and I'm going to use Outriders because play Outriders a lot, featured it on my channel. For those of you who play Outriders, let's say you go into your, your specialization tree, let's call it a specialization tree. You can pick between basically, what is it, anomaly power, tank mode, or health, or just, weapon damage. You got those 3 trees. So it sounds like they may give you 3 trees here, or typically with these skill trees, normally they have the the nodes, and then you have the connecting lines, and you can't just pick and choose. It isn't like a bingo board where you can say, I want top left, bottom right. You have to connect them, so you have to have some cohesive bond between the different nodes, which are those lines. You can't just skip over things. So it sounds like to me they're going to have one for essentially if you just want to go full signature weapon, one for armor kits, which is, I guess, maybe that could be interesting, because armor kits have always been kind of a polarizing effect in this game. The fact that you have to wrap, I know that's what they call it in PvP, because I watch Kong play PvP a lot, but you have to wrap with the armor kits. Obviously, you pull the spent body armor out, you put in new body armor. It takes some time. It isn't like Div 1 where you just hit a button and instantaneous health or armor is restored. So that could be interesting. I know that some people would be interested in that. Grenades, I'm not real sure on, though. Grenades have always been super underpowered. I even made a Mad Bomber build where I invested completely into it with explosive damage, etc., and it was still uber weak. So the fact that you can just, I guess, initiate a grenade toss even faster, or, it says triggered instantly. I don't know about that. And then I guess we're talking about signature weapons. Overall, I'd love to see signature weapons boosted up. Like I said earlier, 1,000,000%. They're just insanely weak. So I don't know about having specialization trees in the Division 2. This kind of screams like we're going, well, it doesn't scream, but it whispers we're going MMO. I don't know. I don't know about that. I have doubts about that. I would need to see it all on paper. I would need to see the effects of it. Obviously, none of us have seen anything to do with it yet, but we're talking about a story-based or narrative-based looter-shooter that all of a sudden we're going to introduce a lot of MMO elements like skill trees and specialization trees and things like that. I know a lot of you out there are like, yeah, we can, we're going to be able to really, tweak our builds and go heavy into this or heavy into that or heavy into this. But okay, let's say you go heavy into signature weapon damage. Well, or signature weapon perks or whatever this is. Well, if the signature weapon damage isn't boosted, what the hell does it matter? Like, I jokingly tweeted out to Epic Slayer when he posted over on Twitter, what are you guys looking for in this revamp of the specialization weapons? And I joked with him, but it was kind of serious at one point. I'd like to have a specialization weapon that can kill a red bar enemy in at least, one round, or, one grenade round, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, I was being a little sarcastic, but you know what I'm saying. If we're talking specialized weapons, they just need to be boosted across the board. Armor kits, okay, so you invest a bunch into armor kits and you can wrap really quickly. Grenades, once again, you're going to need grenades with a lot more base damage. So I'm not sure, this is what, I don't know. I'm trying to stay positive about it. I want to see the Division 2 and the Division franchise, which Ubisoft stated is a pillar of their portfolio. I want to see it be resurrected, have its Phoenix moment and come back. But okay, so you give us all this customization, you give us all this ability to tweak our builds for heavier signature weapons and stuff. But if the replayable content isn't there, if PvP is still kind of what PvP is right now in the Division 2, if the dark zones are still, at least for me on PC, are still just infested with hackers that are, spamming a nemesis from across the entire DZ through buildings and killing everything, and the easy anti-cheat isn't banning them, then what good is this customization tree? Okay, you know what I'm saying? Division 1 was built around replayable content, replayable modes, survival, last stand, underground. Okay, you have these shorter, less intensive incursions versus full-blown 8-player raids. Okay, and then Division 2 comes out, and Division 2 doesn't go so much, or doesn't go really at all, towards replayable content or replayable modes. It goes with narrative-driven content. Well, once you play through a mission once, twice, 10 times, and you see the exact same cutscenes and you hear the exact same dialogue, and you know exactly where the enemy types are coming from, that becomes old. So great, you're giving us lots of customization, but what are you going to do about the base of the game? I mean, this is maybe 2 or 3% of what needs to be done. The other 97%, they need to revamp PvP. They need to revamp the easy anti-cheat. They need to revamp the missions and modes. I know we're supposed to get some sort of game mode, but we need content. That is what the Division 2 needs. This is one little portion of it. Will this make a big difference? Honestly, and no offense to Trick, who is working on this, probably not. It's probably not going to make that much difference to the game, but I'm going to stay positive. Let's move on. Additionally, we want the whole specialization tree to be valid in all game modes, and this means that we are reintroducing the signature weapons to PvP, which I fully expected was going to happen. I mean, if you go into the DZ, if you go into skirmish or anything like that, they're just absolutely worthless. So that's great that they're bringing them back. We want all players to enjoy benefits from these new balancing efforts and improved experience. To avoid seeing signature weapons becoming the ultimate ambush tools, agents will be treated the same way as named enemies when it comes to signature weapon damage. So they're all but admitting to everything that we ever knew, is that basically, if in our current iteration of the Division 2, if you pull out your signature weapon and start spamming it on a named enemy, you're basically just wasting your time. So there you go. This will require significant balancing and tuning. I agree. So we will be watching build and player performance closely. That's another thing. You know, I'm just going to plant this idea in the back of your mind. This game has always had some balance issues, right? There's always been the meta, and then there's been kind of like second tier, and then just a bunch of stuff that nobody uses, like Mad Bomber, for instance. So yeah, there's going to be some major balancing and tuning that needs to happen. One of these trees is apparently for grenades. Grenades have always been uber weak, all right? Even using Mad Bomber and explosive damage and everything like that. So that needs to be tuned up. There's certain exploits with, you know, med kits and, or excuse me, you know, armor kits and things like that. Those need to be handled. The balancing of just signature weapon DPS is incredibly weak. That needs to be handled as well. So yeah, I want to stay positive about this, but it sounds like they're introducing a whole nother can of worms into this balancing, I don't know, ballet. Wow, that was a good term right there. Balancing ballet. And I'm afraid that there's going to be some missteps with this, because there are still gear sets like strikers that still don't function correctly and things like that. So are we still just going to run around with, you know, Negotiator's Dilemma and just go specking real hard into, I don't know, signature weapon damage? You know what I mean? So we'll see about that. Let's keep on. While a specialization and its signature weapon are tied, that will no longer be true for their mods, skill variants, and sidearms anymore. By sufficiently leveling up a specialization, you will unlock these formerly specialization-restricted specific items, say that 3 times real fast, for use by other specializations. Want to use the Artificer Hive with the mortar turret while wielding the Survivalist D50, you will be able to do just that. So that's kind of interesting. They're just kind of letting, you know, the shackles off of everything. You can mix and match to your heart's desire. The specialization and the signature weapon are tied together, so sharpshooter and the TAC 50, you can't just break those apart, but you know, you can use different skill variants and, you know, the specialization sidearms, which I personally don't use very much, but anyway, you can, I guess, mix and match those. Interesting. Okay. As you might guess, these changes, among other exciting improvements to come with our next update, are quite a complex topic to handle. I agree, and we want to take the time to deliver the best experience for you all. In the meantime, good hunting, Trick Dempsey, expert game designer. They have anything else down here? Okay. This is all for today, agents. All right, so that's the ending, and we should look for another Intelligence Annex in November. So some interesting concepts in here. I don't know if going, adding in specialization trees, MMO-Lite, if you want to call it, into the Division 2, which suffers significantly from replayability issues. I don't know if this is the way to go. I've never been shy about admitting that I enjoyed the Division 1 more than I enjoy playing the Division 2, and we can get into arguments about there's more going under the hood as far as, the technology for the Division 2 versus the Division 1, but I like to keep it simple. The old adage, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Is it fun to play? That's the baseline question. Is it fun to play? And for me, the Division 1 encapsulated what the Division was about, that lone wolf, us against, the elements, us against the world type scenario, which the Division 2 I don't think ever really quite captured like it was in the Division 1. Plus, I don't know who made this decision, but they decided to go for narrative-based content. So we're constantly having to wait for the new content to drop versus the Division 1, where you have all these replayable modes. You can replay the content over and over, and it changes, it morphs as you play. Using survival as an example, you get, yes, the cache locations are set, they are static, but your spawn isn't. Who you're playing against isn't. If you're, doing PvP, has the cache been opened? Has it not been opened? Those are all things you have to adjust to, so it's always kind of a unique experience, whereas the Division 2, we just have to wait for that content. So I'm hopeful. I don't know if the Division 2 needs an MMO-Lite specialization tree to go speccing points into to change around our builds. I mean, if you're not going to do anything to Mad Bomber, if you're not going to do anything to grenade damage, or many of these other talents or these gear sets that don't quite function correctly, what's this going to do? It's going to allow us to go in and tweak a little bit on our specialization tree, so my specialization weapon puts out a little more damage, or I can instantly equip an armor kit, which might be, really useful in PvP, or throw out grenades faster. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, just the way I said it right there, that's not what the game needs. But we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so this video is a bit of a long one today, but we're talking about a bunch of different things in the Division. I was just rambling on with all the stuff that I saw in the Intelligence Annex briefing. Here's the second bit of news. This is over on VG247, or 24/7. The Division Heartland and the Prince of Persia remake have been delayed. All right, so we're going to focus in on the Division Heartland. Ubisoft has announced a couple of delays to its upcoming games, including the new entry to the Division universe and the Prince of Persia remake. This was posted yesterday. This is kind of interesting the way they did this, and this is what I want to focus in on this, and I say they, I'm talking about Ubisoft. But during its Q2 financial earnings call yesterday, Ubisoft announced that it has delayed the Division Heartland and the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake past their original launch windows. Interesting that we didn't see anything from Red Storm on this, who was maining Heartland. It just kind of got snuck in here. The games were originally supposed to launch during the company's current fiscal year, which runs until March 2022. If you don't know how that is, financial statements and financial years don't operate on a normal calendar year. They bleed over. But the French publisher has now asserted that the titles will instead launch before the end of next fiscal year, taking the game's potential release dates to March 31st, 2023 instead. So what you're looking at is the possibility that what they're stating in there, and they could have said this, is that Heartland could, I guess, potentially go live anytime between April 2022 and March 31st, 2023, because, of course, when you get April 1st, 2023, that's the next fiscal year. So that's a large window in there. I think we were all kind of expecting a little bit of a delay for Heartland. I don't know what month it was earlier this year that they had a play test. Of course, there was leaked footage. We saw the footage. For those of you that watched it, I'm not going to post any of the footage. And then I know that they had sent out this email, and there are, and if I wanted to, I could probably find the articles right now, of apparently a statement from a Ubisoft representative that there was another Heartland playtest that was slated to start, I believe, yesterday, but I guess that never came about. So everyone was kind of expecting this to happen, and here it is. The news of the delay isn't hugely surprising, of course not. After all, Ubisoft has previously noted that neither the Division Heartland nor the Division 2 content would be shown during E3 2021. We knew that. Okay, the Division Heartland is a standalone free-to-play survival game coming from Ubisoft, and at the time of writing, precious little is known about it. This is very true. We have not seen any, besides that leaked footage, which should have never hit the internet. We haven't seen a press release about what Redstorm is doing. They haven't given us like any studio interviews or anything. They have been super tight-lipped. Excuse me about Heartland. So little is known, but I don't know. It feels like another setback for the Division franchise. Basically, Fei Lao and the end of the seasons, that was, December 2020? At that point, we were told that was the end of the Division 2, and now we're looking at, a year and 2 months, so 14 months, until we see the new Division 2, whatever content they're bringing there. According to that, that kind of timeline that we received, God, it feels like a year ago, somewhere in there prior to the Division 2 new content, Heartland was supposed to launch. I guess that has been pushed back. What this says to me, and this is what I want to focus on, that playtest, I want to say, was 2 to 3 months ago, and then they had another one scheduled now. And if Redstorm is working on this, Redstorm isn't a tiny studio. They've got a decent number of employees working there. So what this says to me is that big changes were made to Heartland. Like, maybe the feedback from that original playtest wasn't, it wasn't as positive as they wanted to receive. Maybe there was a lot of requests to change things in there. And so it's like they've gone back to square one with the game, or at least ripped it down to, nuts and bolts and changed it up a little bit. Because if the game was in a functioning state there for the playtest, and there was, according to this Ubisoft personnel that was quoted on these articles, another playtest was scheduled for right about in here, this time of the calendar, then what that says to me is, well, it says a few things. First off, it could be that Redstorm has, received reduced funding for Heartland. So they had to, back down their personnel working on the game. It could be that they just took the game back to the drawing board and said, okay, we need to really rethink this to make it great. I personally like to embrace that scenario. Or maybe they just, decided to, completely start over. I don't know. But what this says to me is something major internally happened with Heartland, with Redstorm, and I don't know. You could potentially be seeing Heartland early 2023, which is another big setback for this overall spectrum of the Division franchise. So I wanted to touch on this a little bit. I wish I had some graphics for you to watch or something like that. All they've released is that one screenshot with the the Division Phoenix outline, and then you can see the water tower behind it. That's all we've seen besides the leaked footage, which I'm not going to provide on this video. So yeah. So there you go, everybody. I appreciate you staying with me today. I know it was a bit of a long one. In case you aren't yet a sub, please smash that sub button, and don't forget to ring the bell to receive all future upload notifications from my channel. If you could be so kind as to rate, comment, and or share this video, that's also going to be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to find and follow me over on Twitch with weekly streams. You can join my community Discord server, and of course, you can find me over on Twitter posting my thoughts on most things gaming related. All links to those platforms in the video description below. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.